another minute, but we've got about a dozen people have signed in already, so it looks like everybody's finding us okay.
Okay, so let me get started then. Hi, everybody. This is Lisa Clark, one of the reference librarians. Oops, let me start by saying, please mute your mic. Go down to the bottom, you'll see the mics. And great, sorry, I heard some feedback. So again, my name is Lisa Clark. I'm one of the reference librarians at NOAA Central Library. Today, we're ending our Back to Basics Research Tools series with the tool that I use to start all of my scientific literature reviews, Web of Science. We are fortunate to have Web of Science guru Tom Zamojcin from Clarivate online today to show us some of the tool's features that will support your research. Before Tom starts, I'd like to remind you that Web of Science is a subscription tool, so you must be on the NOAA network or VPN to get full access to its content. Please speak to your NOAA supervisor if you don't have VPN on your computer at this time. Also, Web of Science lives in the NOAA Central Library database collection. So in order to find the subscription to Web of Science that NOAA Central Library has, I'm going to hopefully allow you to visualize this. You need to first go to the NOAA Central Library homepage, which is at library.noaa.gov. And then in the menu bar, you're going to see an option for research tools. Click on that and then click on databases. Once you get to that page, you'll see our collection of databases is in alphabetical order. So for today, you'd want to go down to W, or you could click on the W to get to Web of Science. That's pretty much what I wanted to cover in terms of access, but I do want to remind you that if you have questions, there is a chat box if you go down to the bottom that you can enter your questions in, and Tom and I will take a look at those. And also, again, please mute your microphone during the presentation so that there's no feedback. So I hope you pick up some great research tips today, and I know that I always do. And Tom, the mic is yours.
Okay, great, thank you. So thanks, Lisa. Thanks everybody for joining. Our theme is back to school with Web of Science. That was the theme that NOAA asked me to focus on today, and I couldn't resist putting a school of fish up there with somebody searching around in the middle of it. So I'm your solutions consultant. I'm the support person for all of the NOAA libraries and other government agencies as well. And want to try to take this half hour and really give you some new things to think about, some new and constructive ideas that you can take back to your desktop. We have 30 minutes today, so I am going to tell you to fasten your seatbelt. We are recording the session, and I am also going to supply you with the slides afterwards. So don't feel the need to take your attention from the screen. You can go ahead and sit back and watch and learn, and have the recording afterwards as well. So a couple of things I want to focus on. What's different about Web of Science? Why curation and metadata make this a really different sort of resource, and why it should be mission critical for you, and why it is for a lot of NOAA researchers already. I'm going to do a demo. I'm going to spend most of the time in the product itself rather than boring you with a lot of PowerPoint slides. We'll do some search and discovery. I want to show you some strategies that you can use when you're searching. And I'm going to take this from the, to use another NOAA analogy, we're going to cast a wide net. I'm going to show you how to start by doing that, really casting your net upon a very wide ocean of results, and how to narrow those down, how to refine them to something workable. I'm going to remind you about some things that are unique to Web of Science that are easy and really productive for your searches, and that is notably doing searching on organizations and doing searching on funding agencies. We're also going to try to run an author search if we have time, and I'm going to focus on some of the things that are really unique in the pathways in Web of Science for enhancing your search and discovery. And those are based upon Web of Science being what we consider a true citation index. I'll get more into that as we go. So I'm going to talk fast. I'm going to try to check the chat panel for questions. Be on your best behavior because we are recording, and try to keep your phones on mute. But if you do want to unmute to ask a question, that's fine as well. Okay, what's in the Web of Science core collection? That's really where we're going to do most of our work today. I'm not going to read this whole slide to you, but what I want to focus on is it's about 21,000 of the world's most important journals. We cover conferences, we cover books, we cover all of those editions in the lower left-hand corner. As you all probably know better than I do, NOAA is involved not just in science research, but you're getting into frontiers of social sciences, You're certainly working with conference proceedings and books material, and there's a lot of emerging research coming in from around the world that would be in our emerging sources citation index. So there's a variety of content available across the different NOAA locations. It's driven by the library that supports you, and you'll want to check with your librarian to see what resources on the Web of Science and what year ranges are available. We are working with you potentially to try to get a consistent set across all locations, and that's definitely a work in progress. Now, on the right, I want to talk about some things that are going to be really important today. Our coverage. So it's unmatched. We go all the way back to 1900 in the sciences and social sciences. It's broad, it's deep, and it's cover to cover. So we cover our sources, every item in every journal that we cover it back to 1900, and as you can see from those things on the lower left-hand corner, we're extremely multidisciplinary. So we pride ourselves on not only the breadth and depth of the coverage, but also the quality of the coverage. Web of Science is first and foremost a quality measurement because we are selecting content for the Web of Science core collection, and we are not a publisher. So we're publisher neutral, which is a tremendous advantage because we can pick the best and do that efficiently without regard to the title or the publisher that's providing the content. So we're kind of considered the arbiter of quality in this space, and that helps you be assured that you're not getting predatory content when you're doing your work on researching these articles. Now, we also are a vacuum cleaner for metadata. So what that means is we're capturing things like the cited references of every article. These are the bibliographies of all of the articles in this database, and Web of Science platform now is up over 170 million, and the core collection is up over 75 million. So lots and lots of records. By capturing those cited references, by capturing additional metadata that is in these records as we index them, we are creating the connections that form the Web of Science. So if you think about the articles and the conference proceedings as nodes, the connectors between those are citations, and they're the cited references, the time cited, the additional metadata, and right now in Web of Science, there's 1.7 billion plus cited references. These are the bridges between the islands, right? And keep in mind that citations in a citation index are the connectors of ideas. They bridge terminologies, they cross disciplines, they cross languages, time periods, source types, countries, etc. And it's because authors are citing other authors, right? The connections of ideas are occurring. We are, as a publisher neutral citation index, unbiased in terms of what we select and how we curate, and that ensures that we're capturing the most important and the most influential literature. So again, think about us as an index, think about us as a quality filter as well. Okay. Again, that metadata construction is really important. We're going to talk about the ones in yellow specifically today. So capturing those cited references, we capture all author names and addresses for all of our papers, which is really critical for forming an understanding of collaborations and co-authorship. We've captured funding data since 2008, and that enables you to understand the effects and the impact of your funding portfolio, or potentially to identify who's funding research you might want to conduct yourself. So that's a great way to look at not only the co-authorship, but also the flow of financial and support information in the research area. We have also standardized institution names, and we're going to show you how that looks in the Web of Science. We have taken over 14,000 of the world's largest research organizations and made them easy to search, easy to find. You can find all of the content for very large organizations in a couple of clicks. I'll show you how to do that with NOAA. So that's a quick look at that. What do people use Web of Science for? Well, research landscape analysis, thought leader identification, research funding analysis are three of the big buckets. I'm going to send you this slide afterwards, but we're going to look at all of those things a little bit today. We also have a full platform. So in addition to the Web of Science core collection in the center circle here, all of these other databases are available. That expands our content out to almost 35,000 of the world's top journals. We're adding in patents, we're adding in data repositories and data studies. We're adding subject specialized resources like zoological record and Biosis citation index and CAVI for applied life sciences and Medline. So all of these resources are available. Some of them are available to NOAA, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what's on that full platform as well. Okay, one other thing that's really important before we get to our live demo. Lisa mentioned how to get to the NOAA resource pages or how to use VPN to access NOAA's license to Web of Science. One of the things you want to do is when you get your access to the Web of Science, you want to register and personalize your experience. And what I mean by that is at the top right, if you see the word sign in or register, you want to create a username and password for the Web of Science that will personalize that experience. And when I say username, it's probably going to be your email address for work. You're going to give yourself a password. You're going to sign in. You're going to register that email address and password. And that's going to tell Web of Science not just where you are at NOAA, but who you are. And the reason who you are is important is because it sets up automatic sign-in. It lets you access your saved searches. It lets you create alerts. We can't send you an email if we don't know who you are, right? It also is going to configure adding references to things like your EndNote library, which is used heavily across the NOAA enterprise. It lets you select your starting databases or products. It lets you keep your personal information up to date and your opt-ins for different marketing or training information. Last and certainly not least is it also configures you for remote access to the Web of Science for 6 months anywhere. So if you use that password and ID from any computer within 6 months of logging in through your VPN and personalizing your experience, you will have access to your entitlements on Web of Science from NOAA. So that's a terrific attribute. There's a video link on the bottom of this slide. I'm not going to show the video, but you can view it later if you like. It'll remind you all of the things that I just talked about and why that personalization is so important. Okay. I'm going to get to our live demo. I'm going to go into the Web of Science product. I don't see any questions in the chat panel. Either I'm talking too fast for you to ask questions or I'm doing a pretty decent job explaining things quickly. So here's the Web of Science main page. I'm assuming everybody on the call has at least a basic knowledge of Web of Science, so I'm not going to describe the interface in too much detail, but the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start on a topic. And my topic was driven by my experience this week of having lots and lots of storm damage in my neighborhood. NOAA didn't predict that my roof would get ruined, but we have lots of insurance people hovering around our neighborhood with drones. They're looking using autonomous and unmanned vehicles at the tops of roofs to see if we have hail damage. So I thought, well, I wonder what NOAA is doing in autonomous and unmanned or aerial vehicles. So here's my search topic. You can see I've used some asterisks as wildcards. I grouped this, so I'm looking at either autonomous vehicles or unmanned vehicles. And these could be drones that fly, drones that float in the water, whatever. And that's my topic. So I'm going to do a really broad search. I'm going to cast a wide net. I'm going to search the Web of Science all the way back to 1900, which is probably pre-drone, but no reason not to cast that wide net out there. And I've got 57,902 results. So I've quickly pulled back a ton of information on drones and unmanned vehicles. And you can see that I've got these 57,000 results, which is great. I've got a lot of records that are highly cited in their field. I've got a lot of records that are open access that I can filter through, but this is way too much for me to manage. So I'm going to start doing some things to maybe bring this more to today's topic. So I decided I'm going to refine within this search. I didn't realize I'd get so many results. So I'm going to refine within my results by atmosphere, or let's put in ocean, and let's put in maybe meteorology. And I'm putting asterisks in there as wildcards. So I'm going to take my unmanned vehicle set. I'm going to say, let's look in all of those results in the topic, the title, the abstract, to see if there are mentions of those attributes. And you can see it really quickly kind of dropped down to 3,600 results from what originally was in the Web of Science over 78,000 records. You'll see this, or 79,000 at this point. So we've gotten from 79,000 records all the way back to 1900 very quickly down to a much more manageable result set of 3,604 results. And you'll see that even 3,600 is still a lot to work with, but Web of Science is going to give me the tools using that metadata that I was talking about, using the citation information we're capturing to help boil this set down even more. Now, one of the things that NOAA has access to is the integration of journal citation reports, essential science indicators, and the Insights platform. So this is a second platform that NOAA can access. It's integrated with the Web of Science, and one of the things it can tell us is what some of the most highly cited documents are in a particular field. So you'll see this highly cited icon. This is a filter. And I can say, I want to look at the 17 documents in this record set that are among the most highly cited in their field. And the criteria for highly cited documents is they need to be over the last 10 years in the top 1% of their particular field. And that field is characterized by the categorization in the Web of Science journals. If I click this little trophy, it's going to remind me what that means. They're in the top 1% of their academic field. There's another criterion called hot papers. Those are literally fast-moving, fast-breaking papers that are in the top 0.1% of their fields. But I can quickly narrow this down and say, you know what, I started my search, I got 3,600 records. I want to narrow this down quickly to 17 records that are highly cited in their particular fields. And in just a couple of clicks, I've gotten from millions of records down to 17 that might be really interesting for me. So I'm just going to keep following this through, and I'm going to look at these records. You can see there's a couple of highly cited papers here on the right. Actually, all of these are highly cited. Now, what's interesting to me is if you look at these papers, you wouldn't think 8 citations is a lot. You can't tell from that number that this is a highly cited paper. And what we have done using the technology in Insights platform is we have compared cohorts of papers. We've said we're looking at papers by year, we're looking at papers by field, and we're looking at papers by whether they are a review article or an original research article. So we're comparing cohorts of papers based upon how long they've been out there, what field they're in. So oceanography or marine biology articles are compared to other oceanography or marine biology articles, not to chemistry or humanities articles. And these papers are jumping out of the pack already. So this one in the cohort of papers published in 2020, even though it's only been cited 8 times, that's a rapid rate for this particular highly cited paper. Same goes for all of these others, right? So I thought this one was interesting. I didn't know too much about air-sea fluxes and heat and momentum, so I decided to click this article. And you can see the metadata that I'm talking about that we capture in the Web of Science. So one of the things that we do is we capture every author on the paper. So you'll see this numbered list. We've captured on this paper 20 authors. We will capture all of them. So if there's a paper with 3,000, we're going to capture all of those authors on the paper. And you can see what this does is not only give me a listing of all of the authors, we're going to provide their researcher ID. You can see Megan Cronin at the top here has a Web of Science researcher ID as well as an ORCID number. That's her unique researcher ID number. You can see all of the hits in my search highlighted in yellow. So the word ocean, the word atmosphere. Something else is really interesting here too is the word autonomous vehicle comes up in author keywords. So you can see that those are coming up in some spots other than the title and the abstract. So we're grabbing some hits from other parts of the record. You'll also see that author number 1, Megan, is at NOAA. So it's a good article for us to use as the start of our journey today. Now, in addition to characterizing and capturing all of these authors, we're capturing the number of times it's been cited, 17. We're capturing the 193 cited references in Megan et al.'s bibliography. So that becomes a pathway to the research of the past. So we can use those 193 records in some really unique ways. I'm going to show you that in a second. But down below, you can see we've got our abstract, we've got our author keywords, we've got keywords plus, and those keywords plus are actually driven out of those 193 cited references. What we do is we run an algorithm against those, and we populate keywords plus, which are additional keywords that may help your discovery process. You can see we picked up one word in our keywords plus here, ocean, but that was also found in the other record, but in the author keywords, I'm sorry. But you can see that Megan is at NOAA in Seattle, and you'll also see that we have assembled Megan's work underneath the preferred name for NOAA, National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, NOAA-USA, exactly the way that's written out. You'll see the same for, I think there's another NOAA author here too that I saw. There's one in Boulder. And you'll also see that the one in Boulder has been unified to the same NOAA preferred name. So we're putting all of those authors together. We're putting all of that information together. Down below, you're going to see the funding text that I mentioned that we captured because this was post 2008. You'll see that this was funded by a NASA grant and a mega grant P220 program, and we've captured all of that information up here in the funding table. Now, this particular record, we're giving you the details. It was mentioned as being NASA, and we've unified the funder to National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA and parens. So we've also unified the funding information here too as well. So that's going to help us in a lot of different ways. Now, another thing I promised I'd get back to is Megan has 193 cited references here. Now, I don't know much about air-sea fluxes, and I don't know much about heat and momentum as measured by, autonomous vehicles or autonomous vessels. But what's interesting is that Megan is talking about heat flux in her article, and she's talking about using these different technologies to monitor the interface between the ocean and the atmosphere, right? I'm not an expert, I'm a biologist, I know a little bit about some of this sort of stuff, but one of the things that Web of Science can do that's really unique is I can use this View Related Records button. And if I click View Related Records, I can view other records that share references in common with this one. So this one is 193 references. When I click View Related Records, I'm going to find every other article in the Web of Science database that uses some or many of those same cited references. So it's literally going to let me walk back up the research pathway to when Megan published her article with other folks in 2019 and figure out which researchers zigged when she zagged. So what other directions did researchers take with this same grouping of citations? So I'm going to expand my net back out using this article as a hub. I'm not going to type any search terms. I'm not going to do anything else except let those cited references drive the search. And you can see now I've cast a wide net, but a completely different way. And you're going to see lots of articles here on air-sea flux, heat flux, that turbulent exchange of heat and moisture between the ocean and the atmosphere. So I've got all of these grouped now by the number of references that they share. So I've used a really intriguing and different way to find a larger grouping of articles that really talks about a lot of the same things that Megan does because they use the same cited references in their work, at least a lot of them. And you'll also see that in this new grouping, I've got 568 cited articles and highly cited articles and 19 hot papers. So there's a lot of good stuff in here. And maybe I just want to narrow this back down to my original premise, which is I wanted to look at my autonomous and unmanned vehicles. So I can put that back in here. Autonomous vehicle, and just kind of refine this, set back down and say I'm really interested for unmanned. I can take this against this large group that I just found this way and really hone in. So now I've got 87 records, and I really laser focus this on 87 records that look at the use of autonomous vehicles that look at a lot of the same air-sea flux or heat flux measurements that Megan's paper did. So I hope you saw how I did that. I took something that was a very, very large, very, very broad set of results. I found a hub article. I used that to kind of re-queue a different search. And then I narrowed it in on something that was really important to me, which in this case was the use of autonomous or unmanned vehicles. Now I've got 87 records. I can take these records, I can export them out into my EndNote desktop library. I can save them as a marked list. Lots of different things I can do to preserve these records for the future. But I've gotten from the the 79 million that I started with in the Web of Science core collection and boiled it down to really 87 that are spot on point for me. So that's one of the new things I wanted to show you in the Web of Science that you may not have tried. Now, a couple other things I want to show you. I'm going to go back out to my search page. And I mentioned that Organization Enhanced search. So I'm going to go to Organization Enhanced, and I'm going to use this index until I learn the exact name for NOAA. And we saw it in those records, but I'm going to use this search tool. I'm going to find NOAA. I'm going to click Find. And it's going to give me a listing of all of the different agencies that in their first address line have used NOAA. Now, it could be NOAA, it could be other organizations that have collaborated with NOAA, it could be NOAA subsidiaries. But the one that I want is the one right here. This is the one we saw in that unified set. This is the preferred name for NOAA. And if I click Details, D for Details, it's going to tell me what's unified under NOAA and where the main headquarters location is. And then it's going to show me all of the things that Web of Science and our editors have curated and put together to make up NOAA. I'm not going to scroll through that list because you'll lose your eyesight. But I'm going to just say, great job, Clarivate, putting all this together. Click Add, click OK. It's going to add NOAA to my search screen for Organization Enhanced, and I'm going to click Search. And then just a couple of clicks here, I've now populated a quick search that's going to find me all 62,000 records plus for NOAA in the Web of Science database. Now think about how hard it would be to find everything that NOAA ever published and put it all together into one data set. This is what your administrators want to do, and we can do this really, really rapidly. We can also have a good time with this, and we can say, all right, now we've got them all together. What's the most heavily cited article in NOAA's collection? Well, it's this NCEP NCAR 40-year reanalysis project, which has been cited an unbelievable 20,137 times. Love to be one of the co-authors on that article and have that one on my resume. I can also use these refine and analyze tools. So the refine on the left is telling me these are all attributable to NOAA. I also can tell you who the top author is at NOAA by output in all those years. So good way to start asking trivia questions. And I can use this analyze results tool. I can take this complete set and I can really start to drill down into it by the categories in which NOAA is publishing. So here's your top categories of publication. We're looking at the top 10, but maybe we want to look at the top 25, and no surprises here, but you may find some that intrigue you or interest you. Maybe we're interested in imaging science if we're looking at aerial vehicles. I can look at NOAA's output by publication year, and each one of these boxes I can drill down into. So, how's our publication rate going? Who are we collaborating with? Organizations Enhanced is going to tell me that. So here's your top collaborators as I make way down. Probably not too many surprises here that you're working with Colorado Boulder or NASA. Top authors, I mentioned that already. And you can see how easy it is to start drilling down through this data. Source titles, where are you publishing the most? Which journals should your library have? So this is a great tool to really start to drill down into lots of information. How are you collaborating internationally? That's captured as well because of all of that metadata that we're picking up. So I wanted to show you that search and also show you this tool. You can have fun playing with this later now that you're back to school and figure out some more things there. I'm going to quickly go back to my search page because the other thing I want to show you is we can look for NOAA as a funding agency, and I do know that the name for NOAA as a funding agency is exactly the same as it is for an Organization Enhanced. So remember, we're capturing this information from 2008 forward, and here's the same type of information for the 14 or 15,000 articles that make up NOAA's funded portfolio. So these are organizations or these are people and papers that have been published using funding from NOAA. And again, if I go down into this funding table, you're going to see that NOAA will be listed as one of the funders here. Right here, it's going to give me NOAA, and it's going to give me the grant number if that's provided by the author when they publish their article. It's buried in this funding text. We find it, we take it out, we put it together, and we unify it. And if I click Show Details, you're going to see that in this article, NOAA appeared as NOAA. We moved it to the preferred term, National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, NOAA-USA. So that's all in there. Now, one of the things that I wanted to show you is, really quickly, there is an additional button that you may or may not have tried. And you can use this for your own work, or you can use this for the work of somebody else that you're working on. So this author search data is doing very well. Let's look for our friend Megan in here. So her last name is Cronin. Her first name is Megan with a G-H, I think. Megan, yeah, so there's a Megan. And if I wanted to play it safe, I could say, you know what, I know that Megan also publishes under Megan F. So we're going to pick those two variants. I'm going to click Find, and Web of Science is going to use all of the information in all these records, all of the metadata about Megan, the fact that she's published as M, MF, M.F. Megan without the F, and Megan with an F dot after it. So Web of Science has put together all of the work that she has published in a couple of different organizations, many different subject categories, and we've built these two author records. You can see that Web of Science researcher ID on her record. Remember I mentioned that she had that a little bit earlier. She's also got an ORCID. It looks like there's 13 documents here that maybe haven't been tied to that researcher ID that Megan may want to check on. But there's 88 and 13 documents. I'm going to select all of these. They all look like the correct Megan Cronin. I'm going to view combined record. I'm going to put all of her stuff together. Web of Science enables me to do that. We can do the same thing for you, even if you have a really common name. You will see that Megan has already claimed these articles on her Publons profile. That's the researcher ID functionality that I talked about. You'll see I've got her 101 publications. I can filter her publication set by the ones on which she's the first author, the last author, the corresponding author. I can view her entire set of results. I can export them out. You can see that we've already built her citation report based upon putting all of these documents together. We're also reporting her position on the authorship list. And if I go out to her Publons profile, we'll do that in a second. Because she has claimed these, she has now built her own researcher profile. If I click this, this is a free functionality. You can set this up for yourself just by doing what I showed you here by claiming your documents. Megan has claimed her documents. She still has a few publications that she does need to claim on her profile that we found when I did my search. So she can do that search herself and go ahead and add additional publications here. But you can see this Publons profile has her researcher ID. It has a summary of her work here. You can add some biographical information. Looks like she's added some things, but not a lot. We can look at the metrics for her profile. So you can see that Web of Science Publons has already built her citation report, time cited, publications. All of her publications are listed below, her H-index, her time cited, her citations per year. And if I click this next link, it's going to show me where Megan has published as well. So this is something that can be really important to you in your career, and Web of Science can really help you put all of this data together in one place very, very quickly. This used to be nearly impossible. So all of this metadata, all of this curation, all of this citation information makes it easy to assemble your topic information, your subject searching. It makes it easy to put together your institutional output. It makes it easy to look at you as a funder. It makes it easy for people like Megan and yourself to gather that information together and put it into a profile that, again, makes you discoverable to others. So if I go out to this Publons homepage, if I look at the browse functionality here, I can browse researchers. Maybe I'm looking for, or let's browse institutions. So let's browse institutions. These are people that have set up Publons profiles, and we can look for NOAA. You can see that NOAA has 224 researchers that have taken advantage of this functionality already. That puts you number 168 in the US. Hopefully you're going to see names of some people that you know here, or maybe you're one of them. Congratulations if you are, because you know, you've gotten all of your Web of Science information together. You'll see that some people have received awards for highly cited or peer review award winning. So you can see these profiles here. Zhao Feng Li looks like one of your people that has 187 publications, 189 publications, 295 reviews. He's a top peer reviewer. This makes him discoverable. I can use his researcher ID to find all of his papers in the Web of Science. In fact, if I click this, if I actually copy this and put it over into Web of Science and search for it there, we're going to find his papers in Web of Science that have his researcher ID tied to them. But you'll also see, unlike Megan, he also has added his editorial board memberships and has automatically added his peer review activities for all of these journals. So he's actually putting himself out there as available for peer review and a highly recommended reviewer as well. So lots of information there. I know we tried to do a lot in a half an hour. I hope I haven't lost you in the dust here. I do not see any questions in the chat panel, but can we take a couple of moments here for questions? If there's anything anybody wants to ask, you know, please go ahead and type it in the chat panel, or unmute your phone if you like, and you can ask out loud, and we'll try to get to those. I have a few minutes before my next meeting if anybody has additional things they would like me to cover.
Tom, you and Web of Science are rock stars. This has just been great. While people potentially add some questions, I just wanted to remind everyone that this is a recorded webinar, and we will be uploading it to the NOAA Central Library YouTube channel probably by the beginning of next week. So please feel free to watch it again. Also, if you do have any questions after the webinar, remember you can always contact the library at library.reference@noaa.gov, and we will try to tackle your Web of Science questions, and whatever we can't handle, we will ask Tom to help us. So obviously you've seen today we're in very good hands with Tom and Clarivate. And this, I just can't say enough of how often we use Web of Science at the library for more than just research, but some of the bibliometrics that you were pointing out today.
Yeah. Hey, before we leave too, Lisa, there was one or two more things I wanted to mention. So as I was doing all of this searching, Web of Science was tracking my search history for me. And this goes with that login that I talked about. So Web of Science has captured all of the searches that I've run today. I can go ahead and save this history, and I can also use it to create an email alert at this point. So I can do that by preserving that here. I give that alert a name, and I can come back to it after lunch or after Labor Day weekend, and all of my work is preserved. It's also a spot where if you want to combine searches, you can do that. So one of the things that I did earlier in the day is I said, let's combine a couple of these searches. So my original search here that I ran was for autonomous or unmanned vehicles, and I can click the box next to that search, and I can say, you know what, who else at NOAA is working on autonomous and unmanned vehicles? So I'm going to go over to number 17, which is my NOAA search. I'm going to click those two boxes, and I'm going to say, combine those with an and. And this is a nice functionality where you're combining search sets. And when I combine those, you're going to see I have 123 records. So if I'm looking for help with unmanned or autonomous vehicle work at NOAA, this is a list of all of the people at NOAA that have mentioned some form of unmanned or autonomous vehicle in their research. So I've taken those two sets and I've really honed that in again and said, all right, I need help with these unmanned aerial vehicles or these unmanned sensors that are sitting out there in the ocean checking the wave atmosphere interface, and who can I work with, right? So here's a way to identify collaborators, internal or external, to your organization that are really honed in on the topic that you're working on. So I wanted to point that out as well, and all I did there was just kind of click those two searches and them together, and then I clicked the 123 and it took me out to this new results page, and what's NOAA's success rate with autonomous vehicle work or autonomous drone work, et cetera. I've got a citation report on those 123 papers just by clicking a button. So lots of really powerful stuff here. So anyway, I do want to say thank you everyone for joining us today. Have fun going back to school or not going back to school, but hopefully you at least have a new tool in your arsenal or some new ideas to try as you try to get back into the swing of things. And by all means, get in touch with me or your local libraries at NOAA if they can help you out, and we're happy to assist using our tools. So thanks very much for your time. I'm going to hit stop on the record button. I'll make both the slides and the recording available afterwards as well. And thanks, Lisa, for facilitating all of that today, and hope to see you soon on the Web of Science.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tom, and have a fantastic Labor Day weekend, everybody.
Thanks. You too.